Welcome to the Sportscast, February 26, 2019. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, and iTunes. And if you're on iTunes, please leave a rating and a review. And for any other news, check us out at thesportscast.net. You'll find all our channels, all the articles, and what's going on in the world of sports. Robert Kraft unusually got accused of going to a prostitution ring in Jupiter, Florida. Robert Kraft is the owner of the New England Patriots, and of course the NFL said they will take procedures in order to punish him. Probably the same as a player, maybe, a couple of games. Well, I don't know how they're going to do it. Probably going to find it. But to talk to us a little bit about it is our very own Ryan Christa. Welcome to the Sportscast.
Santiago, it's good to be here. Well, whenever you have football news in this time of year, especially involving an owner, it's probably not good news for him. In this case, it's definitely not good news for Robert Kraft and the Patriots organization.
Now, it's unusual because apparently he stepped into the prostitution. Well, first of all, it was at a little massage parlor in Jupiter. And apparently he was there the same day as the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, I saw that too, and it was odd, but I do remember that game starting at 6:30 at night, and he's probably just, typically always travels, by himself to the game, and this to the general public, it's probably not a big deal for him to arrive, and a plane from Florida to meet up with the team, especially during the winter months. I'm sure he doesn't spend much time up in the New England area. It's just a weird story. I know it's hard to wrap your mind around it, but it's kind of the fact of life. Unfortunately, people make mistakes, and this is definitely is a black eye, on his reputation of being one of the most solid, owners and one of the most involved owners. What makes the Patriots great is they got great ownership from the top, down, and that kind of trickles down to the coaches and obviously to the players. They do it the Patriot way, and this is obviously, something that's, gonna ruin what has probably been really mostly a flawless reputation for Robert Kraft.
Yeah, very much so. Robert Kraft, known as the owner of the New England Patriots, also owner of the New England Revolution, could face, I don't think it's I believe it's 100 days in jail, I believe, and then I think 100 hours of community service hours. So it's not.
So I learned a little bit more about, and obviously didn't know much about this, what the punishment, but it's just a misdemeanor. They're not really looking to, I think this is more of a crackdown on human trafficking. This is and this is kind of just the result of it. They're trying to find that. And I think as long as they're not finding that, he's involved in the big human trafficking ring, that it'll probably just be minimal punishment by the court, probably community service, maybe a fine, but especially being, first-time offender, I don't think it'll be harsh at all.
No, and plus he'll probably pay, some fine or something as well, some penalty. The NFL did say that they will go through procedures of punishing him. What's the worst thing that the NFL could punish him with? Just charge him?
Maximum, I think, is $500,000 fine. And I could just keep him, and keep him out of, attending games for a certain period, or that's really all they can really do. Obviously, he's not playing any games, and he's not coaching. He's just attending as basically to see his business run on game day. So, they'll probably just suspend him from coming to games for 4 games. I'll probably hit him with probably close to the maximum fine. The NFL would, there's no love lost between, Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell after the Deflategate, and I think, Roger Goodell will definitely try to use this example as making sure that all owners are aware of, that the code of conduct is definitely not just for players, but for also management and owners.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, there is some friction between Goodell and Kraft. And
I guess, there was an incident with Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, a couple years ago, and he got roughly, I think, a 2 or 3 game suspension and a pretty high fine, for, I believe, a DUI. Along that lines. So I'm assuming you're going to see something along that line from the league office. But you probably won't even see it. League moves very slowly on these things, and they want to take in as much information, and they're going to hit you when the news is dead. They're going to drop this fine, sometime in the off season.
Very much so. And of course, yesterday we saw Tom Brady actually escort him to the airplane yesterday, to his private jet. Were you surprised to see Tom Brady and see him go like that?
Yeah, he's always going to defend his owner, the guy that signs his paychecks. Robert Kraft defended Tom Brady, and during the Deflategate. So whether he's guilty or not, you're going to stand by your owner. Very
much so. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's early on. Hopefully, we'll see the fate. Maybe the whole story was inaccurate. Of course, that's what Kraft says. But we'll see.
I guess this is. I was listening to some of the legal analysts. Robert Kraft's going to have obviously a high price, get defense. They're going to go to the video. If any of the video was obtained illegally or without proper consent, they'll probably do it. Most likely, he's going to obviously plead not guilty, and if there's enough evidence, he'll probably take a quick plea deal from the courts and, try to make this situation go away as quick as possible.
Very much so. He has the money for it. And we'll see what happens. Last night, Kansas defeated Kansas State 64-49. Kansas takes control of the Big 12 in men's college basketball. Are the Kansas future looking good?
Well, the big question regarding this is Kansas State, who coming into last night had a 2-game lead over Kansas in the Big 12 race, would have won that game. That would have pretty much sealed the deal that Kansas, a streak of 14 straight league titles, would come to an end. But winning last night, getting within the game with 3 games left for each team, definitely gives the Jayhawks a fighting shot. They're a game behind Kansas State and Texas Tech right now. The Jayhawks should be favored in all 3 of their games left. 2 at home, 1 on the road. It's just definitely going to come down to the wire. This is one of the most remarkable streaks in college sports. 14 straight times, at least with the share of the league title in this age of sports, is so impressive. Have they come along with some black eyes recently with the FBI probe and suspensions and yes, and that's probably why this streak is in jeopardy, because this team is not what it could have been. They lost Silvio De Luso. They lost Azubuike to an injury, and now they got their guard Vic is out on leave right now. So this is definitely a showing themselves, Kansas, but themselves a good coach. Good X's and O's coach, but it's interesting to see if these legal issues are finally catching up to Kansas, and they may take a step back. It'll be interesting to see. They're definitely not a championship caliber team. I don't think anybody in the Big 12 is a championship caliber team, but in that sense, they might have the deepest amount of good basketball teams in college basketball. There's no great teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, Big 12 is not really one of the top. I mean, yes, they're one of the top conferences, but not favored to win the national championship basketball.
Conference, you're probably looking at the SEC and ACC But those two conferences, while they got a lot of great teams, ACC, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, SEC, LSU, Kentucky, Tennessee, they don't have the depth of good quality basketball teams of the Big 12. But, they don't. But the Big 12 doesn't have the title contenders that the SEC and ACC have.
The AP Top 25 poll just came out recently, and we have number 1 Gonzaga, 2 Virginia, 3 Duke, 4 Kentucky, 5 North Carolina, 6 Michigan State, Tennessee, Houston, Michigan, and Marquette. How do you see the top 10?
There's definitely, as a guy who cheers for the Zags, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty excited to see them back up top. They're probably one of the 8 teams. I think if I take a look at college basketball as a whole, I feel like there's 8 teams, the top probably 1 or 2 teams, 1 or 2 seeds in each region is probably the only teams that right now can win the Final Four and win an NCAA championship. When you get to the AP right now poll, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. The NCAA committee is not using that to base their rankings. Gonzaga can be number 1 and win the rest of their games, but if Virginia or Duke wins out and wins their conference, I see them as probably the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. It's just kind of window dressing, get us something to talk about as we get into the most exciting time of year in college basketball, and it's especially this week when the calendar turns from February into March.
Are you surprised Virginia is in the top 2 and also top in the ACC?
No, this is definitely an extremely talented Virginia team. Tony Bennett is one of the best coaches in college basketball. He's kind of overachieved at Virginia for quite a few years, but now this team is full of not just good college basketball players, but great college basketball players that play within the system. They're unselfish. They play great defense. Just because they're not high flying, they don't take a lot of quick shots. But they don't turn the ball over. They rebound well. They're definitely well coached, and they make timely shots. Literally, the only Achilles heel they have is the Duke Blue Devils, and that's the only team that has beaten them this year.
The Florida Gators defeated a physical Missouri team 64-60 on Saturday at the X-Tech Arena. Coach Mike White said, "I clenched my gut as Pickus shot with the Gators up 2 points." How do you see the Gators this season so far?
Well, they have struggled mightily. We're looking on the outside of the tournament about a week ago. Now they've won 4 straight games, the longest winning streak of the season, and last week was the best week they've had. Going to LSU is a heavy underdog, a team that just beat Kentucky the week before, and go and they defeat the Tigers, and Baton Rouge on the road, which just gave them a big big jump into the NCAA tournament. Most bracketologists now see them as not just one of the last 4, but solidly in the tournament. And then they go Saturday and they play against one of the weakest teams in the SEC and have to fall behind by 12 in the beginning of the second half and have to kind of rally, make some tough shots. Definitely not one of their better games, but one of those teams they needed to win, and it's kind of a big gut check, as Mike White said. This is not a great Florida Gators team. This is a team that will be great next year. They start 3 freshmen that will all be back. They don't have a lot of skill. They play hard defense. They don't have a lot of size, but they hustle. They team rebound great. They do a lot of the little things to kind of make up for the lack of talent and experience. I'm definitely excited to see how this team evolves, the rest of the season and into March, and definitely next year. This is definitely, with the top 5 recruiting class, going to be one of the, I'd say definitely top 10 team going into the next year's college basketball.
Right now, the SEC standings are LSU, Kentucky, Tennessee, South Florida, Mississippi, and Florida at 6th spot. So they're right above Mississippi State and Alabama. So definitely Florida is a mid-table SEC team. LSU is not. will be the top dog in the SEC, apparently. We'll see. I mean, they're battling out with Kentucky, of course, so things could switch off in the next couple of days or weeks.
You want to talk about a great basketball game? What about the game Saturday in Baton Rouge? Another overtime game involving the LSU with coming on playing the Tennessee Volunteers. And after losing to Florida, they had their own gut check, with shorthanded and missing their point guard, Tremont Waters. They definitely had a team effort to beat Tennessee in overtime on Saturday. Definitely a huge win after the letdown to losing to Florida to come out and win that game for LSU. That was big.
Do you think LSU will go deep in the brackets?
Oh, definitely. This is I'm going to get us off track a little bit here, but they definitely are dealing with a little bit of bad press. This information came out yesterday that their coach Will Wade will be subpoenaed when the next trial starts, and he'll have to testify probably in front of the courts about what his involvement was in the recruiting scandal involving Adidas. But it didn't seem to bother them this last game, but it'll be interesting seeing this next week's game if LSU is sidetracked with this information about their coach coming out.
Speaking about Adidas, how much blame does Nike get over Zion's shoe last week?
That was just a weird play, Santiago. I mean, he didn't do anything crazy. First minute of the game, he just made a cut, and the shoe just gave up. It was just...
It ripped in half almost.
It was just 1 in a million play, It just happened. It may have been the faulty shoe. It could have happened to anybody. It happened to the most famous college basketball player in the most famous game, Duke, North Carolina. So it definitely made for a lot of headlines and a lot of talk this week, And it kind of got the conversation going again that should these, NBA-ready college players have to go to college, high schoolers go to college, or should they go right to the NBA? So
yeah. Now, for Zion specifically, do you think he should play another year, or?
Oh, no. He definitely should go to the NBA. He's definitely, with a lot of his experience at Duke, is eager to play. He says even if he could go to the NBA, he would go to Duke just for those experiences of playing in the Duke, North Carolina game.
Yeah, this is one of those debates because Charles Barkley talked about it last week. I'm sure you saw it. And he was saying, hey, I played for 3 years. Kareem played for 3 years. Michael played for 2. Do you think he has a good case for that?
Well, the rule right now is you've got to play for 1 year, and that's probably what he's going to do. But it just isn't, it's hard because it's a different area you're talking about.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe Zion is ready already. He doesn't have to play another year to develop.
Ready. He's going to be a great NBA player. He might be one of the best we've ever seen. He's a freakish player, Santiago. What he can do on the court, his athleticism at his size, wow.
Do you think the Knicks might get him?
Well, yeah, he's going to be the number 1 pick, no matter who, depending on who is going to draft him for him. The Knicks. But we'll see. That's just another issue and involves NBA tanking now to see who's going to get Zion in the draft.
I'm pretty upset that they traded Porzingis out of New York.
Well, here's the Santiago. Here's what you did. They traded on. In return, they got Hope. Hope they signed in free agent. Whether it be Anthony Davis, whether it be Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They traded away a lot of their high price salary, that Dallas took back in return of getting Porzingis. They got first round picks, but what they got is the ability to sign marquee players at high price contracts in the off season.
The article from the Bleacher Report says that the Denver Broncos reportedly won't be one of the NFL teams involved in trade discussions about Pittsburgh Steelers superstar wide receiver Antonio Brown. On Monday, Mike Kliss of the 9 News reported the Broncos aren't interested in Brown because of his pricey contract, which includes a $22.2 million cap for 2019 and the expected high-round draft pick Pittsburgh is expected to seek in return. How do you see that? Do you as a Bronco want Antonio Brown, or you think he's just way too expensive?
I don't think anybody, there's salary cap. Unless there's a marquee quarterback, you just can't have a salary cap number for anybody other than that, because then it's hard to fill up a roster. The Broncos are definitely in a tough spot. And there's a good chance it's going to cost them Emmanuel Sanders here in the next couple of weeks, because they're going to have to decide if they want to, and that's not even as high as Antonio Brown cap hit, because they're in a tough situation because they got a lot of guys they need to sign on their team and coming up, aka they're going to eventually have to re-sign Von Miller, Chris Harris. So they're going to have to make decisions, who they want to keep and who don't they want to keep. And there's definitely, I'd be shocked if the Broncos got Antonio Brown as the story of Lucy. They got too many salary cap issues right now, especially they got to find a way to get rid of Case Keenum off the roster now, because there's no way that they're going to be able to keep Joe Flacco and Case Keenum on the roster. And I even heard a little bit of rumbling this morning that they're looking to bring in Nick Mullins as a backup quarterback who was just recently the starter in San Francisco the last half of the year after Jimmy Garoppolo got injured.
That should be an interesting conversation. I would like to see the trifecta: Flacco, Sanders, and Lindsey.
That's what the management's going to have to decide if it's worth having Emmanuel Sanders, who just tore his Achilles. How much is he? Is it worth it? How much he's going to play this year? If he's going, there's a lot of issues. If he was fully healthy, I think they'd run. There's no problem keeping him. But if he's going to miss, a portion this year, it's hard to imagine him, taking up a lot of salary cap if he's not even going to play.
Let's switch to the Lions. Trent Richardson from the Birmingham Iron scored 3 touchdowns against the Atlanta Legends. Can you see a Trent Richardson going to the NFL for the 2019 season?
No, I just think he's going to enjoy a lot of success in this league. They tried it out in the NFL, and maybe he gets a shot. Even watching right now, he just fits this league. He doesn't have the explosiveness you see a lot of the NFL running backs. He's a tough runner, but I just don't see him as an NFL running back. Especially, it's just so easy to go draft a running back right now.
Yeah.
There's such a short shelf life. I think that ship sailed. I'm happy that he's having success in the AFL, but I don't see much success beyond that.
We'll see what happens. It's only 3 games in. So far, the Iron are 3-0, and Richardson is definitely the best player in that team, maybe in the whole league. But we'll definitely see how things roll out. I personally think the 2 best teams is Birmingham Iron and Steve Spurrier's Orlando.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm surprised to see Arizona lose to Salt Lake City this week. I definitely think they're the best team out west. Arizona, and they'll probably come down to Orlando, Birmingham, and the other division.
Yeah, so we'll see how things out. Remember, this is a short season. It's only 2 months for the regular season, and in April will be the playoffs and the championship game. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've been watching it every weekend so far, so I've been really intrigued. But you're right; it's between college football and the NFL. It's just right in between those two.
Well, it's perfect. They're trying to keep a lot of these geographic college players in the area that they play college football because, fans recognize it and they're able to relate to the players. And having, like Trent Richardson playing Birmingham, that alone will probably get people to come to the stadium and watch him play.
Yeah, and by the way, the Iron has 10 former Alabama players playing with them.
Oh, yeah, that's, there's a reason for that, Santiago, and that's to put people in the seats and eyeballs watching the TV. I think I said this last time. We never, the AFL will never be probably appointment television. Meaning you're going to design your whole day around watching these games. But if you're home, it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah, which is very accessible.
The NFL is appointment television because it's the best of the best.
Right.
It's the same thing, if you enjoy basketball and you're home and the G League's on, you're probably going to watch it. But you're not going to plan your day around watching the Windy City Bulls and the Stockton Lakers, are you? Probably not.
Let's switch to the NBA. A lot of talk of the Lakers slump. There's only 22 games left in the regular season. They're at 10th spot. I guess they're competing against Sacramento. How do you see the Lakers? Can they make it to the playoffs at this point?
Can they? Absolutely. Will they? Probably not. This is, there's two important events that happened. LeBron's injury and Christmas night, they were rolling. And a little bit of night, that was the height of the Lakers season. They absolutely destroyed the Warriors that night.
Yeah. They're capable.
But, and that, he misses 19 games. They struggle. He's coming back, and, his agent's trying to push for this trade to get Anthony Davis. And I just think the chemistry is just way off. If they don't make the playoffs, it's fair to say that Luke Walton won't be the coach anymore. It'll be interesting to see what direction this organization goes, and since they're going to try to make that same trade with Anthony Davis. Because they saw that window. They knew Boston wasn't going to give up any assets in the middle of the season, and they thought that's the only team that can probably outmatch them with assets, which draft picks and players.
Yeah, and of course,
they knew that the window to get Anthony Davis was during that trade window, and that never, I don't think it even came close.
And I think the whole psychology with the team, especially with those four players thinking, oh, we might get traded. And I think that really affected the psychology of the team a little bit.
Of course. Do you want to go to work when they publicly are trying to get rid of you?
Yeah, not good. Not good. But,
if that's the chance the Lakers took, and kind of spearheaded by LeBron James and, his agent, who's also the same agent that Anthony Davis has. This definitely could have been done under the table, and I don't think they would have had as much issues, LeBron's definitely going to have to step up their game, but, losing to Pelicans and Grizzlies, I know it's on the road, but still, those are games that got to be sure things if you're trying to get in the playoffs.
They're must-wins. But they beat the Rockets not too long ago.
22 games, they got to win 15 of them to get in the playoffs. So,
wow.
15-7 probably gets you in, but I don't see this team going 15-7.
Yeah, that's a lot to ask for, especially in the Western Conference.
Absolutely, Santiago. And instead of the Eastern Conference, if you have a pulse, you probably make the playoffs.
Yeah, you can make it within the last week, you still have a chance.
I mean, you look at it, Santiago. What the Magic at the 8th seed right now, and they have a game at 500 or?
Well, right now the Hornets are 8th right now.
Okay, and they have a 500 record, right?
Correct, 467.
Wow, so even below 500. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the Eastern Conference for you.
All things are not created equally. The Western Conference has always been a deeper conference. Well, now the Eastern Conference is top-heavy.
Wow.
It kind of goes back to our opening argument. The Western Conferences, they got the Big 12. They told you a bunch of good teams. Well, the Eastern Conference is the ACC and SEC with the top-heavy.
Anyways, that wraps up our show. Ready for some game predictions?
Sure, let's do it.
Duke versus Virginia Tech.
I know we don't have Zion Williamson, but as long as RJ Barrett, they play like they did against Syracuse, I definitely think Blue Devils on top.
Wisconsin versus Indiana.
Indiana's a sinking ship, so I'm definitely going Wisconsin.
Syracuse versus UNC.
I'd like it for the morale of this community for Syracuse to win, but, UNC is hotter than Texas chili right now, so I'm going to go Tar Heels.
Arkansas versus Kentucky.
UNC is hot. Kentucky is just as hot, if hotter. Playing super well right now. Yeah, you're definitely not going to lose to the Razorbacks tonight. Go UK.
Texas A&M versus LSU, SEC showdown.
I'm going to go with LSU.
LSU tops it. NBA, Celtics versus at the Toronto Raptors. Great matchup.
Definitely a great matchup. I'm going to go Raptors.
The Raptors win. Oklahoma City versus Denver. Surprisingly, number 2 Denver.
Could be a future playoff matchup. Definitely two teams that are fun to watch, but I'm going to go Oklahoma City.
It's interesting because the distance between the Thunder and the Nuggets are 3 games. That's a big gap in the NBA, I think.
I think Golden State looks to be pretty solid in number 1, but I definitely think Denver will probably be, Denver and Oklahoma City will be 2 and 3 respectively.
Do you believe those rumors about Kevin Durant going to the Knicks?
It's definitely a possibility. Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. I just have this sense that he's ready for a new challenge. I don't know if winning is always going to be most important. Because he got the rings now. I think he wants to. He just wants to be the guy, and I think he got the rings now, and he can go to a place in New York, and they can build a team around him. So,
and he's not the guy.
And the Zion Williamson, that'd be awesome for them.
Plus, he's not the guy in Golden State.
Yeah, that's always going to be Steph's team. I can say that Kevin Durant's a better overall player than Steph Curry. Nothing against Steph, but he's still Steph's team because he was drafted by the Warriors. He's homegrown, so that's just kind of a place to play. I think that would always, if you stayed in Oklahoma City, it would have been, awesome to see because he would definitely win a championship eventually. But
you think Klay Thompson?
He wasn't patient enough. So
you think Klay Thompson will stay at Golden State?
Definitely, if Kevin Durant leaves, the goal is they could probably work out to keep everybody but Cousins there. And Cousins will definitely be a high-priced free agent as long as he stays healthy.
You know something? If I had to choose between Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant, I'll choose Klay Thompson.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
How about you?
Definitely a better team player, but that's just a better player.
That's just my thing because I honestly don't think that the Warriors needed Kevin Durant to win championships.
You're probably right because they were winning championships and going to the finals without him.
Yeah.
That's definitely right.
Yeah, look, okay, to stop LeBron, look, they could have used Iguodala and someone else to double team him, but I don't think Durant was that we have to or else we will we'll lose to Cleveland 2 more times. No, I honestly think Cleveland was already weak and they got lucky that 1 year by injuring that number 23 player from the Golden State. I forgot his name, but. Okay, yeah. Green, Draymond Green, when he got technical or got suspended for a game or two, so that really did it. That was a smart move, but of course. Anyways, random question of the week: what is the most lovable pet? Dog, cat, horse, or rabbit?
I'd say dog, man. It's best friend.
How many people do you meet that have a horse as a pet?
Well, as a pet, I don't know if you have them ever as a pet. You just have them as a hobby, maybe. I don't know. Just people that have them, we know a couple just because they have a couple horse farms in the area. But
typically, they use a horse for business or they compete in equestrian. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which is a sport. Which is talked about in the sports cast.
There is a sport, yeah.
I want to go NFL history memory lane a little bit, but I can't think of anyone right now. But whoa, hold on. Archuleta is actually one of the commentators for the Alliance on CBS. Did you know that?
Yeah, definitely. When had a good NFL career, good hard hitter. Remember him back in the day with the Bears. I think he's always going to be a CBS guy in the sense that he's never going to be the next Tony Romo in the sense of being a great broadcaster, but he'll be always have 1:00 special games, like the Tampa Bay Minnesota game. Where they
You're just naming random cities. But anyway.
Well, I'm just saying teams that typically aren't on a 4:00 game where you got Tony Romo or you got Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, NFL game, the number one teams.
Well, Ryan, Christa, how can people reach you to talk to you about the Syracuse and UNC game?
Probably on Twitter, Mad Dog Report 18.
Which, great job on tweeting on our Sportscast Twitter account for the UNC versus Duke game. And I hope.
Oh yeah, it was a great game to follow. Started off with the fireworks again with Zion. So
I fell asleep at halftime. Sorry, I'm so tired at that time. Right. But maybe you'll able to tweet again for the next big game. So.
All right, sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Ryan, Christa, I appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Love being the college basketball expert here.
Yeah, you are the college basketball expert at the Sportscast. The other guys are a little bit more on football, I'm a little bit more on soccer, but we definitely share our duties. And guys, don't forget to go on the sportscast.net for all the information. And also please subscribe on all our channels, YouTube, iTunes. Share to all your friends. Subscribe as much as you can. It will help us out. And check out the sportscast.net. Ryan, Christa, I appreciate you coming on to the Sportscast.
San Diego is always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great day. Love you, Mindy and Cleet.